Now that I've pinched out my pinch pot completely and left it in a bag without spraying it, it's a little more leather hard and tough. And so now I can finish the surface a little better. I can work on the edges, I can trim if necessary, I can add texture, and eventually we'll add attachments. So I'm going to take my pinch pot and put it on something that's called a banding wheel. And a banding wheel looks like this. It's essentially two metal wheels that are connected. Always lift by the bottom because, as you can see, the two pieces come apart. So if you lift it by the top, you might lose the bottom piece on the floor. And banding wheels are kind of like the original pottery wheels. They spin. They could allow you to pinch more if you'd like to. It also allows you to glaze stripes on, to band the pottery if you'd like. And they're just kind of useful because you don't have to use your hands to turn the pottery wheel and put your hands on the clay. You can just turn the wheel itself. So these are helpful to work on. They're also helpful when you're glazing and things are wet. So to smooth, I can use some different tools. I can use a scraper and make sure that if you have a serrated scraper, you use the flat side. And I might just use my tool like this, just kind of scraping across it. I'm probably going to pick up a little bit of clay. But this tool is useful in making your clay very smooth. So you can see there's like little fingerprints and dents, and so I'm kind of scraping the top layer to whittle down the clay so that it's all level. My clay still does move a little bit, so I'm kind of holding and supporting the clay as I'm doing this. You can also use a damp sponge, but you don't want to add too much water to your clay because we want it to stay kind of stiffened up. So you might not want to use that. You can also use something called a rib. This is a rib. It works really well on the pottery wheel too. They're all different shapes and sizes. They're usually made from wood, although some might be plastic. The hole is so that you can grip the rib, which is helpful when you're on the wheel and you use a lot of water. So once you're finished with the pinching and it's leather hard, you can work on finishing the surface. Now the top edge is kind of rough on mine too. You can cut away from your edge if you'd like, so maybe if I want to scallop the edge, I could do that. I might want to use a real precise tool like an X-Acto knife. If you're just trying to trim the edge and kind of make it all the same, you can use your scraper like this. You could also use it like this to make those edges a little more refined. So you can change the edge. However, I don't want you to whittle down your clay to half the size it was. So the trimming is just kind of light trimming to make it more finished, maybe to give it a detailed edge, but try not to go too crazy with the trimming. The scraper can be used on the inside as well, and the rib. It's a little trickier to get the inside because there's less room. So if you need to, maybe use a sponge on the inside. And I can see there's a crack right here, so I'm going to make sure that right now I take care of that, because otherwise it will fester. It will get larger. if you have a bad crack like that, you might also consider, if you're having a hard time fixing it, to just remove that area and work it into your design. So when things like this happen, it's not necessarily the end of your piece of art. It's more like, okay, this is a problem. We have to use our creativity and figure out how to solve that problem. And if it changes our design a little bit, well, it's probably good for us to be flexible and to work with it rather than against it. And if you use water again, try not to add too much water. We don't want to turn our clay back into plastic clay because we're trying to finish it. Now, as far as texture goes, you may want to consider what you're going to attach on your pinch pot. I do want you to have at least one attachment. You can attach things to the outside, you can attach things to the inside. Things can come off of your pinch pot, they can lay flat against your pinch pot. It's completely up to you. But you might want to consider where you're putting your attachments and whether you should put texture on now or maybe you should wait until after your attachments are on. That's sort of your own problem to solve as you go through with the pinch pot. I'm going to have to pick this up because I can't get the bottom unless I actually pick it up. Okay, so make sure that you finish your entire pinch pot before you add any texture or any attachments, and we will get to that after we complete this step.